Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce from the wonderful organization, Americans for Prosperity, the Vice President, Tracy Henke. She'll be with us in just a second. We are here live in Washington, D.C. at the Washington Hotel at the Defending the American Dream Summit. We came last night, and we went downstairs, and there was beautiful country music. I mean, it was a good time. There were a lot of people just sitting back, enjoying themselves, relaxing, having good conversations, political, non-political. You guys have done such a fantastic job of putting this together.
Thank you for that. The team is doing an absolutely fantastic job, and we were thrilled last night that Tim Rushlow, he was a lead singer of Little Texas, and Larry Stewart, lead singer of Restless Heart, who are great fans of Americans for Prosperity Foundation and great fans of and supporters of economic freedom, were willing to come and do this concert. And on top of that, these celebrity judges for karaoke. It provided an atmosphere and environment of relaxation, as you already said, Brett, and an opportunity for people to have conversations, but at the same time to have fun.
Oh, sure. Now, I've been both an activist
and
an interviewer of many guests from Americans for Prosperity. Phil Kerpen's been on my show many times discussing his book. You've been on, Tim Phillips, so many other people have been on, and James Valvo was on last week, a few other people promoting the show. So it's a great relationship we have, but I've been in the trenches with you guys through the whole health care battle in the state of New Jersey with Steve Lonigan, fighting tax issues and things like that. But I have to ask you this question because you've been very clear about what this summit means. But what is the main goal? What do you plan to achieve by all the people coming here together this year at the 6th Annual Summit?
You know what? This summit is all about engaging our activists and arming them with the information and the data and, quite honestly, like I said, the energy, so they can go home and they can become better advocates and that they can go and make certain that our issues win the day. That's the goal of this.
Well, that's excellent. So what are the initiatives that Americans for Prosperity are taking right now? What are the biggest fights that you guys are undertaking right now to promote that economic freedom?
You know what? There are three main things with one thing weaved through all of it. First is cutting government spending. Reality is the federal government needs to operate like every other household in this country, and they need to get their fiscal house in order. The second thing is regulation. We need this administration especially to recognize that they are going way too far on regulations in this country, and that that free enterprise and that individuals have the desire to do the right thing, and if left to do so, they will. And then finally, repealing the health care. As you know, we had a rally this afternoon on Capitol Hill once again, and we are not resting. We are continuing to make certain that they hear the voices of Americans for Prosperity activists, that they need to repeal it. And then finally, just seriously, wed throughout all of it, is the elimination of cronyism. This administration is picking winners and losers in the marketplace to a whole new height, and that is something that we're going to continue to educate people on and make certain that they're informed and aware.
Very admirable goals. Now, we've got the election coming up November 6th. We will hopefully, well, for me, hopefully we will replace the president and put somebody in that will help us work towards these goals of repeal and all the economic situations that are going on. But what are the challenges that lay ahead in these coming months for your organization, for the activists that are involved in Americans for Prosperity, and for the American people for that matter?
The challenges that lie ahead is to make certain that people are informed and educated and that we reach as many people as possible. It's one of the reasons why the sister organization, Americans for Prosperity, is doing a ton of phone banking and door knocking between now and November, and we'll continue to do that activity afterwards because the election isn't the end. Reality is for us at Americans for Prosperity, after the election, no matter who's in the White House and who's in the House and Senate, Americans for Prosperity will only be bigger and stronger, and we'll be holding them accountable.
Hi, this is Jim Robbins. I'm a big fan of your Facebook page, I got to say.
Wonderful.
You guys have a huge following
out
there,
do.
And I just wondered how you got so many followers.
You know
There's
what?
like hundreds of thousands of people that follow your page.
I was going to say, I know we're over 500,000, I believe. I mean, we are amazed and astounded. And I would say it's because we're connecting with people. They're sharing the same interests. It is, Americans for Prosperity is the mechanism for voices to be heard. The organization, we're only as good as the foundation upon which we're built, and our foundation are our activists. And so we share the common goals. That's how we get them to join, and that's how they like us on Facebook. And by putting relevant information out there and giving them the opportunity to see what we're doing.
Right, and if you are a social networker, if you're on Facebook and stuff like that, you should check out that page because there's a lot of great information there, a lot of great people. 500,000 of your friends are out there. So, if you want to get some of the latest stuff to see what's going on or meet new people or who knows what, there are a lot of great conversations that go on there. I go there every single day. No kidding.
Thank you.
Yeah, just check it out.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Tracy, Jon Brett report. I could tell you that I follow quite significantly the energy sector, having been from the sector, having started businesses in that sector, and you're spot on in your comment about crony capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. Not only is it crony capitalism, but so many of the companies that have been given huge amounts of money are companies that are paying very little in taxes, that are providing all kinds of support for the current administration, and have received favors when their coffers are very, very fat. So on the one hand, we have an executive branch that's essentially trying to punish and make corporations out to be the bad guys, and on the other hand, those companies that are supporting his policies are getting pretty significant amounts of money.
Absolutely, they are. And all you have to do is go back to our information in the ads that we put out on Solyndra. If you look at what we did on Solyndra, and if you go to what Frank Luntz said, it's the first time in history that a third-party organization was driving the discussion in a presidential election. The very first ad that the president put out, normally the first campaign ad tends to be a warm, fuzzy, let's hug some children and pet some pets, or let's pet the dogs. Instead, it was a situation where he was forced to respond to us because we were putting the information and the data out there on this administration picking winners and losers and their green energy scams.
The irony is, if you recall, during the prior administration, there was a significant amount of hay made against the vice president for, quote unquote, all these secretive meetings, right, with the energy companies. And all I know is, I've run Silicon Valley businesses. I've driven up and down the roads a bunch of times. Solyndra has beautiful buildings. The parking lots are empty. I don't recall the results of Dick Cheney's efforts leaving all those energy company parking lots empty.
Bankrupt. Not just empty, but bankrupt. I mean, they risked hundreds, if not thousands, of employees and their livelihood by creating artificial markets that weren't sustainable, and that at the light of day, once again, it was politics over people.
Well, I will say I'm a first-time attendee.
Good. Welcome.
And thank you. I'm loving the event. It was a terrific evening we had last night. And there's one thing I want to point out to our listeners, because it often disturbs me that we get a lot of false information out there. And just like the Tea Party, Americans for Prosperity also very often will have things said about them that is not true.
That's right.
All I heard was a lot of people who were just seeking to make the country a better place for themselves, for their children, and for their grandchildren. I did not hear one disparaging mark, not even really about current administration. I really heard a lot of people looking to solve problems, not to place blame, and certainly not to demonize other peoples for their race, creed, religion, color, nationality, etc. And that is one of my biggest takeaways.
Thank you for that. At Americans for Prosperity, our activists are about real solutions. They're not about political parties. It's about real solutions and getting the country back on track. And it is a great testament that that you were able to say that, and that's your takeaway, because it's the same takeaway that I have every time we have a gathering of our activists. It's about solutions. It's not about blame. It's about moving the country forward.
We have enough blame out there.
There's plenty of it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I just wanted to say we had an interview. Scott Rasmussen joins us every Tuesday for a segment, and he does some fantastic polling, and I love even the books that he's been writing for years. But one thing he pointed out, I said, Scott, what are the biggest things that the Americans are upset about today in your polling? He said, well, 1, 2, and 3 are economics, followed by ethics and corruption. And we always say this. It doesn't matter what party you're in. We want an ethical, moral, and not a corrupt government.
That's right.
That is the most important thing. Look at any kind of government entity or spending. If you look at Medicare or Social Security, you look at the fraud and abuse in Medicare, Medicaid, all these social systems, where if you were able to even start rooting out that, you would be cutting out anywhere from, 10, 15% on a low end up to 20, 30, even 40%. And on a state level, it's probably even worse.
Absolutely it is. And one of the things that is always frustrating is that individuals are constantly saying, well, you know what, that small change isn't going to make that big of a difference. Well, when you start making 10 changes, 20 changes, 30 changes, guess what? It adds up to real change. So just because it might be small doesn't mean we shouldn't do it.
Well, I don't want to keep you longer because I know you have so many other interviews to do. Tracy, please share with us your website so anyone listening who doesn't know, because you should, how could they find out more about Americans for Prosperity and come next year or come even tomorrow?
You know what? If they're in the area near the Washington Hilton, they can come tomorrow. We would love to have them. We're going to have a great lineup tomorrow, including a panel at the end of the day with Tucker Carlson, Janine Turner, and Brent Bozell. And we'll also have Mark Levin kicking off our afternoon session. So we have a full day. We would love to have them, but they can go to www.americansforprosperity.org. We'd love to see them.
And it's hot in Washington, but it sure is nice and cool in here.
Thank you for that. We work on it.
Well, again, thank you so much for having us, and we look forward to you joining us on the program, The Final Say, again. Thank you.